All right, Bob Chick, we're wrapping up things here in Orlando. I'm here with Peter McGuff and David Bay from Parts Unknown, Wisconsin. Folks, a great show here in Orlando. The smoke has cleared. Time to review, boys. Fitness, Michelle Blank, easy call to me after the prejudging. She comes out on top, back to the Olympia.
Yeah, Michelle looked fantastic, came out. Her routine was really good. I liked Rael Graber's routine just a little bit better, but they put Michelle in the middle in the physique round, which does count for a third. So if, with the routines being close, Michelle got the nod. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. Rael Graber's routine was fantastic, as always, high energy.
She ended up in second place, but also got the award for most entertaining routine, which they give out. So an extra $500 and an award in her trophy case.
Yeah, she did great. The one thing I would like to point out, and hopefully I think our video guy Brendan got this, Marta Aguilar, she did her routine, and she got on one hand and hovered above the ground. It was like 15 seconds, like where it was crazy. It was unbelievable. But
I've seen Peter McGuff do that, but you could only hold that for about 3-4 seconds. She actually did it for a lot longer, Peter.
Yeah, I have to be drunk to do that one. I can do anything when I'm drunk. But yeah, I've never seen that before. We just stood there or sat there in amazement. And also, I think we're unanimous. We couldn't understand why Chelsea Gailey didn't get called out into those top five. She had a tremendous physique, did a great routine, and was never in the first call out.
Only the judges know for sure, but
I thought she looked fantastic. She did have a little bit of a backflip, had a little bit of a slip in her backflip. We saw Tangi Johnson, same thing happen at the Olympia. And when you're talking about elite routines, you can't really have that. But I agree with Peter 100%. I thought Kelsey looked absolutely fantastic. Somebody that I haven't seen before, so I was very impressed with her. A little bit tighter in the physique and polish up her routine a little bit, and I think we'll see her in the winner's circle not too far near future.
Well said, David. Yeah, right. All right, moving on to women's physique, Peter. It was Ayana Carroll. Now, we've seen Ayana before, tiny in stature, but, man, she's put together. We've seen her in the top five, but she really put it together here. She ends up winning. She's going to the Olympia.
Yeah, she's got a very compact, like you say, she's one of the more petite competitors, but she's very well put together and very compact. She has a good stage presence as well, So I actually saw Michelle Horan as the winner, but it's I don't want to do the Ronnie thing, apples and oranges. There were different types of physiques, weren't they? And then the girl in second was more streamlined, but the top three were very, very good.
All right, Dave. Well, Rachel Baker takes second place. We've seen her before. Definitely one of the names that we heard before the show going in. She didn't disappoint in second. And Michelle Horan in third. I thought she looked great.
Yeah, I did as well. And as we had talked about in our preview video, there are some names on this list that we weren't familiar with, never heard of before. Michelle Horan being one of them. She looked fantastic, and like Peter said, it was kind of an apples oranges with her and the winner Ayana, but I don't think anybody complained with her as the winner. Also, another unknown, Tara Brandt, didn't make the top 5 or top 6, but she did receive an award, kind of their it factor, that Ed and Betty Prazel.
It was the Horizon Award that they added in this year to give it to somebody who has the it factor, and you know what? Sometimes you can't really put your finger on that, Peter, but I thought she was a worthy candidate. I mean, she had a great look to her, and a physique definitely I think that we could see in that top 3 very near.
Yeah, the strange thing was, when she came on this afternoon, I was trying to rethink what she looked like yesterday. But almost immediately I was overtaken. But she had great stage presence, and her personality came way out. I didn't know this award was up, but she would have been the one, David called it anyway, but she did have this special it, about her, and it was great to see.
She's got $500 to go with that special it factor now, and I think we'll be seeing her in that top 3 very soon, David. But that's going to take us to the men, the open men, obviously the feature of the show. It wasn't as deep as I would have hoped, as we talked about at the prejudging, but let's break down that top 5. Fifth place.
Well, fifth place was Daniel Toth. Now, the guys on the boards, you guys know, I've been on there nonstop since finals started, even the last handful of minutes between when finals ended and right now, some guys not really seeing where he got fifth. I'm telling you guys, if you're sitting in this front row here, the fifth was a very fair call for him. I don't know if he tried to streamline his physique a little bit. I know he's been critiqued in the past for having a little bit of a thick waist. He did look downsized, and he also didn't look to be quite as grainy as we've seen him in the past. So, yes, his stomach did come down. Kudos to him on that, but he gave up some other stuff. So, he's going to be competing in New York next week. Hopefully he can find a formula to bring him in a little bit tighter, and he should do well there as also.
All right, Pablo Ayala Zayas in fourth place, Peter. I thought he looked good. He kind of got worked a lot because he was kind of in that middle ground. So he was out in the first call out, and then he kind of got left out for the second call out in prejudging. So he was gassing out there, but he seemed to come back a little bit better tonight.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's similar to Toth. You know, he's a guy who criticised for being too big. I mean, he was in Tampa last year, but he wasn't in shape. But we talked about a big Ramy sort of moment. He streamlined as well, but lost, particularly yesterday, any sort of wow factor. But today he came back much harder, but one of the reasons he was harder, I think, was because he's worked such a lot, you know. So him and Daniel are both on the right track. You know, they've got this down. Now they have to get the rest back up again.
Well, speaking of on the right track, our old friend Alex Fedorov back in action here. He's as big as a house, Peter. I mean, this guy is 4 feet wide. I mean, seriously, you can't appreciate it unless you see him in person or you see him standing next to somebody you think is big. But the big Russian came in. I wouldn't say it was really disappointing. I mean, I think he's got a good foot in there. I'd like to see him compete more throughout the year, but your thoughts on Alex Fedorov?
Yeah, well, I spoke to him afterwards, and he only got back into training after 8 years layoff, like last April. And he went into November's Russian Grand Prix, got 8th. He admits he's a lot better now. And, you know, I mean, he was 290 pounds. You know, I mean, he needs to come down a little bit, but I mean, the width of the guy, and you know, just he dwarfed everybody in size and walking around the audience. I mean, I got my cardio in because I walked around him twice. You know, so he served a purpose there. Yeah, great guy, very humble, and then really, he said he came back because he didn't want to end up being 50 or 60, and I remember those days, and regret that he never gave it another shot. So it's a real good story. You know.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see if the big Russian can be rushing back to the stage, David. And
He's going to be in New York next week.
oh, good. Well, there we go. In New York at Steve Weinberger's New York Pro. So we'll see if he can, bring it down a notch. Like Peter said, if he could just bring it down 5 pounds, I mean, you know, he's going to be in there and be a contender for the title. That's for sure. Michael Lockett, we haven't seen a whole lot of him, but he showed up here with a whole lot of muscle.
Yeah, Michael Lockett's an interesting physique, as we've talked about. He was one of the few guys who showed up yesterday in really good shape. Now, we know the judges take a look at the guys again, and that's brought into consideration. They don't just rejudge the entire thing. So how the guys looked yesterday doesn't just go right out the window. That being said, I think if Fedorov would have came in yesterday looking how he looked tonight, Fedorov probably would have snuck up into that second spot. But, I mean, Fedorov was noticeably off yesterday, and Michael Lockett was on. And Michael, I think, got a little bit better for today, too. You know, as we had said, an interesting physique in that he doesn't have a lot of depth and muscularity to his back, but his delts and his arms are so big that he can make every pose look really good. You know, guys are going to talk all day about the size discrepancy in his quads. It's there. You can't ignore it. In the bigger shows, if he gets there, that's going to be an issue for him. But in a lineup like this, he showed up in really good shape, real dense muscle, and, you know, he got a second-place award in his pro debut, so not too bad.
No, not too bad at all. Congratulations to Michael. Well done. And I tell you, he's a muscular marvel. I mean, that kid's just got slabs of muscle all over the place. Hopefully we'll see him in New York or any of the shows that are coming up. That brings us to the winner's circle, Peter, and Fouad Abiad, as he's corrected me. I've been saying it wrong. For 8 years, he says, I've never corrected you because you say it so well. So, call him what you will, but we're calling him the winner here tonight.
Yeah, he was a very much deserved winner right from the get-go, right from the starting gate. And, of course, talking about starting gate, he's called Haas. It's Kentucky Derby tonight, so, you know, there's a tie in there. Just going back to Lockett for a second. Great muscularity, a unique composition of muscle. I just wish he'd be a bit more aggressive. I think in the pros he needs to get out there and get into the... I mean, his posing routine was short and sweet enough instead of taking the stage and playing to it. But back to Fouad, or whatever his name is.
Fouad.
The guy who won. Tremendous upper body. I mean, right from the start yesterday, he was in the lead. Great condition, everything. Obviously very emotional about winning it. I mean, I really think last year his career might have been over with the illnesses he had. So congratulations for him for fighting back and getting this well-deserved first place.
Absolutely. Well, last year, as people would remember, Branch Warren kind of came in the 11th hour as he needed the qualification. So if not for that, he would have been the defending champ here, and he would have had his second pro victory. But he was fighting some illness. No?
That was in Dallas.
Oh, Dallas, you know, the other Europa. Come on.
I'm not trying to embarrass you, Bob. I know if we don't correct it, we'll all be called dunces, Bob.
Oh, yeah, because you know 1,000 people online will be correcting me. So I appreciate that, Peter.
That's what I'm here.
Hey, that is what you're here for. But You all know what I mean, but Fouad was there. He was in second. He could have had a pro victory if not for Branch Warren. This year went a whole lot smoother for him, though. Wasn't fighting any illnesses. He says, I got no excuses. I'm coming in here, but I wanted the victory. I want to feel like I've earned my way to the Olympia, and now he feels good about maybe making that top 10 this year.
Yeah, if he shows up with the fullness that he had this weekend, but the conditioning he brought when he was sick, and that's kind of an interesting story, is that Fouad, he attributes his conditioning in Dallas last year to the fact that he was ill, throwing up and stuff like that. But if he can bring that level of conditioning to the Olympia with this level of fullness and muscularity, I think, you know, I'm not going to say here's a guy who's going to crack the top 6, but I don't think that the top 10, top 12 at the Olympia and is a stretch for him, and top 10 in the world ain't too bad. You know?
He needs to get himself sick backstage somehow, Peter, but retain that fullness. I don't know if that can be done, but if anybody can do it, it's Fouad.
That's right. I mean, yeah, good luck to him. And I mean, I think overall we're a bit disappointed about the condition of most of the guys, but in the end it was a very, very interesting show. You know, with Fouad coming back, Fedorov, Lockett's pro debut, Ayala coming in differently, Toth coming in differently. So it wasn't a boring show to watch at all.
Well, the MD train continues next week. I'm going to be in Dallas, Texas for the Ronnie Coleman Classic, the big nasty show out there, so that'll be interesting as always. 500 plus always coming to Dallas. Everything bigger and better there, of course. Sunday, May 10th, Mother's Day this year. It's a little oddball, but hey, we'll go with it. The New York Pro, Steve Weinberger's New York Pro being put on. That's going to be in Teaneck, New Jersey this year. A little bit of a change of the venue. To me, that's a good thing because I wasn't a big fan of the other one. I think this is going to be a whole lot better. So New York Pro coming up. Stacked lineup as always, of course, and an Olympia qualification up for grabs. So catch us from New York. We'll be on the boards, of course, all week. You guys can debate everything Peter said here today, and that's just fine, even though you're wrong. For David Bay, for Peter McGuff, I'm Bob Chick. That's going to end things here at the Orlando Pro.